Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 1 of Writer Way Workshop. I'm Allison, and I'm a writer. So when I first started showing my stories to my friends, more often than not, they were totally underwhelmed, which as a high school student was pretty discouraging, because I thought my stories were okay. But when I went to college, I learned that I was making some mistakes and that I wasn't alone. A lot of beginner writers, almost everyone in my classes, started out doing some or all of the things that I'm going to talk about in this video. So, this is 5 mistakes you might be making as a beginner writer and how to fix them. Let's get started. Number 1 on this list is not reading. And by that I don't mean not reading at all, because if that's the case, you probably wouldn't want to be a writer in the first place. But maybe you're only reading one type of literature, or you're not reading the kind of books that you want to write, or you're not reading them closely enough. The most valuable skill you have as a writer is being able to read something, identify what's working about it, and then apply that stuff to your writing at a later date. So, it's essential that you're reading a lot of different kinds of literature, reading poetry, fiction, nonfiction, contemporary, classics, and eventually you'll be able to pick out what's going to be helpful to you from other people's writing and apply it to your own writing. So there are lots of resources to help you find books that you'll like. There are lots of lists of award winners. They're award winners for a reason. Don't feel like you have to stick with a book and just muscle through it if you're not enjoying it at all. Maybe it's not the most useful thing for you. It's okay to put something down and try something else, as long as you're reading a lot and reading closely and learning all you can. You will improve your writing. Secondly, you've probably heard of the rule show don't tell before, but no matter how many times you hear it, no matter how experienced you get as a writer, you're going to sometimes find yourself falling into the same old trap of just telling and not really showing your readers what you want them to see. The first thing you can do to help yourself with this is practice visualization. So, in the middle of writing, just close your eyes for a couple of seconds and imagine what you want the scene to look like. Then write exactly that, like you're writing a movie. Try not to focus on the fact that you're trying to convey something visual through written words, and just write what you see in your mind's eye. And your writing will instantly get better. You'll be showing and not telling quite as much. Another really simple thing you can do is avoid adjectives. If you're using a lot of adjectives, you're probably telling instead of showing. The third thing that can go wrong with a lot of beginner stories is that they don't have a good balance between the plot, the character development, and the theme, which is really important because most stories need a really good balance to be effective. And this can be kind of tricky to correct, especially if you already have a story written. But the best advice I can give is that as you're writing the story, consider who the character is as you're constructing the plot. So every time your character makes a choice, make sure that choice is true to who they are and gets them closer to what they want, at least from their perspective. Your character's not necessarily going to be self-aware, knowing exactly what they want, exactly what their motivations are, but you as the writer should definitely have a clear vision of who the character is. As far as theme goes, my favorite advice is to not worry too much about creating a theme as you're writing, because if you worry too much about it, you're going to end up sounding didactic and maybe a little preachy. Just let your character change, and as they change, a theme will naturally be produced. The fourth mistake I'm going to talk about is overwriting, and this is when a writer uses a lot of really flowery or outdated or kind of silly language to try to sound like a writer or force a style, but what it ends up doing is really weakening your message and detracting from the good things you do have in your stories. So you want to stop that. To avoid the problem of overwriting, I like to use something called the hard turn. There are going to be times when you want to convey a really strong emotion or conflict, and there's going to be one thing happening for a while, and then there's going to be some kind of a point of revelation, and then it's going to resolve itself. The way you do this is that throughout the build-up to your points of revelation, you're going to want your sentences to be one way, and at the point of revelation, you're going to drastically shift them and write completely the opposite direction. So if you're using really long sentences in the lead-up, you're going to want to cut it really short. Or if you're using more formal language, throw some profanity in at the point of revelation. Shift the tone of your sentences and the emotion will come through much stronger. The fifth and final mistake a lot of beginner writers make is not revising. This can happen when you feel like your story is just great, it's good enough, you don't need to do anything else to it, or you've gotten really attached to the things you've written, like you have some really beautiful sentences and some really cool scenes, or maybe you just don't know where to start. But revising your stories is an essential step to taking your stories from just okay to good and publishable, and it's not something you need to be afraid of. If you want to work on your revisation skills, I'm going to be uploading a video pretty quick here, so make sure you subscribe to my channel for lots of great tips and instructional videos on how to make your writing better. Thanks for sticking around and watching. Goodbye.